Imagine discovering that the life you built, the family you cherished, was nothing but a lie. That's exactly what happened to me. After months of suspicion and distance, my wife finally confessed. And her words shattered my world. She wanted a divorce. But that wasn't even the worst part. She told me our 2 daughters weren't mine, and the only reason she stayed with me was out of pity. I had never felt pain like this, but I knew I had to act fast. Before we dive deeper, thank you for your continuous support. It truly means the world to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, please subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. You might just get a shout-out in our next video. Today's special shout-out goes to Lynette Anderson from Trinidad. We're so glad you enjoy our stories. Now, let's get into the details of today's story. I used to believe in love, not the fairy tale kind, but the real kind. The kind you build. The kind where you wake up every day and choose the same person over and over again. That's what I thought I had with Olivia. For 10 years, I worked tirelessly, building a business from nothing, making sure my wife and daughters had the best life possible. The big house, the vacations, the luxury, none of it was handed to me. I earned every single thing. And I thought Olivia saw that. I thought she appreciated it. But lately, something had changed. She stopped, looking at me the same way. Our conversations felt forced, hollow, like she was just going through the motions. Book club nights turned into entire weekends away with vague excuses, and when she was home, it felt like I wasn't even there. I noticed it, of course. Any man would. But I kept telling myself it was just a rough patch, that things would get better, that we just needed time. Then one night, everything fell apart. It was past midnight when she finally walked through the door. I was sitting in the dark, waiting. No texts, no calls, just silence. When she saw me there, she didn't even flinch. No guilt, no surprise, just indifference. She tossed her purse on the counter like I was an inconvenience. "Where were you?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She sighed, pulling off her heels. "Out with friends, Ethan. I told you." Don't lie. To me. My voice was steady, but inside, something was breaking. For the first time in months, she looked at me. And what I saw wasn't love or guilt. It was nothing. Just cold, empty indifference. "Who is he?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. And when she finally did, the words she spoke destroyed everything I thought I knew. "The girls aren't yours, Ethan." Silence. The words hung in the air, suffocating me. I stared at her, my mind refusing to process what she had just said. "What did you just say?" My voice barely sounded like my own. She shrugged. "I thought you knew, or at least suspected." Suspected? The daughters I tucked into bed every night? The little girls who ran into my arms after school? My entire family? How long? I managed to ask, my hands clenched at my sides. "Since the beginning," she said without a hint of remorse. 10 years. 10 years of my life wasted. I wanted to scream, to break something, to throw the nearest object against the wall. But I didn't, because she wasn't worth it. Instead, I asked one final question. Why? That was the first time she hesitated. The first time she looked uncertain, maybe even a little guilty. "I didn't want to hurt you," she finally said. "I stayed because I felt bad for you." Pity. That was it. Not love, not regret, just pity. And in that moment, I realized the woman standing in front of me wasn't the Olivia I fell in love with. She wasn't my wife. She was just a stranger who had worn a mask for a decade, and now that mask had finally fallen. Deep breath, forcing every emotion down. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I turned, grabbed my jacket, and walked to the door. "Ethan," she called after me. "Where are you going?" I didn't answer. I just stepped outside, letting the cold night air hit me like a slap to the face. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do next, but one thing was clear. I was going to find the truth. And when I did, I would make damn sure I never lost again. Betrayal has a taste. It's bitter, metallic, like blood in your mouth after taking a hit you never saw coming. For days, I walked around in a daze, my mind replaying Olivia's words over and over. "The girls aren't yours, Ethan." It wasn't enough to hear it from her. I needed proof, cold, undeniable proof, because if I was going to burn my life to the ground, I had to make sure the fire was justified. That's how I found myself in a sterile, windowless clinic 2 days later, staring at a white-coated technician as he handed me 2 swab kits. "You'll have results in 72 hours, he said. 3 days, less time than I had spent waiting for a delayed flight, yet long enough to destroy everything I thought I knew about my life. I drove home, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. The house felt foreign when I walked inside, like I was stepping into a place that didn't belong to me anymore. Olivia was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone as if she hadn't detonated a bomb in my chest. I said nothing, just nodded at her, went upstairs, and locked my office door. If she noticed my silence, she didn't show it. She never really paid attention, did she? The email came while I was sitting at my desk, staring at nothing. "Your paternity results are ready." I clicked the link. My heartbeat was slow and heavy. My hands were steady, my breathing even. Maybe part of me already knew 2 simple words. Not a match. For both. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling through my nose. No shock. No sudden burst of rage. Just a numb acceptance of the inevitable. That was it then. I wasn't their father. Not legally. Not biologically. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked straight to my lawyer's office. "File for divorce," I told him. "Effective immediately." He raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? You'll need to prepare." "I don't need to prepare," I cut him off. "Just do it." He studied me for a moment before nodding. "Understood." I walked out feeling nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just a quiet determination to erase Olivia from my life like a bad investment gone wrong. But something still nagged at me. She had been too calm, too composed, like she had expected me to fall apart. But there was something else in her eyes, something beyond guilt. Fear. I started watching her more closely. Little things. The way she jumped whenever she got a text. The nervous way she avoided certain topics. It wasn't just about the girls. It wasn't just about the affair. She was hiding something bigger. So I did what I do best. I started digging. I hired a private investigator, an old friend from my college days who owed me a favor. It only took him 48 hours to find the truth. I sat in my car, gripping my phone, as his voice came through the speaker. "Ethan, you're going to want to sit down for this." "I'm already sitting," he sighed. "It's not just some random guy Olivia's been seeing. It's David Langston." I blinked. The name didn't register. At first, then slowly the pieces clicked into place. David Langston, my business partner, my so-called friend. The man I trusted to help me build my company from nothing. I could almost hear my own laughter from months ago when David had toasted to brotherhood and loyalty at our last investors' dinner. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "How long?" I asked, my voice deadly calm. "From what I found, at least 8 years. 8 years? Almost our entire marriage." I exhaled slowly, forcing the rage down, letting it settle into something colder. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to confront him like some cheated husband in a bad movie. No, I was going to handle this my way, because now it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about revenge. She actually thought I'd take her back. Olivia laughed, but my face stayed cold. "I don't go backward," I said simply, "only forward." Then I turned my back on her, for the last time. I wasn't the man she betrayed anymore. I was the man she could never have again. And that was the greatest revenge of all. David Langston believed no one could outplay him. He built his empire, on charm and lies, layering fraud beneath handshakes. But like every coward, he had one fatal flaw: arrogance. I spent months gathering proof, documents, bank records, testimonies, offshore accounts, fake vendors. Every shady deal he thought was buried, I dug up. At the board meeting, David sat at the head of the table, pretending to be untouchable, but the fear in his eyes told the truth. I laid the evidence down, page by page, and watched his world collapse. In silence, the board voted swiftly. David Langston, co-founder and so-called friend, was fired on the spot. Days later, the legal system caught up. Frozen assets, criminal charges, a public fall from grace. His empire crumbled without me lifting a finger. As David burned, Olivia panicked. Her safety net was gone. She reached out, texts ignored, voicemails deleted, visits blocked by security. She expected me to chase her, but I felt nothing. No anger, no regret, just satisfaction. And then I met Isabella. She wasn't impressed by wealth. She respected power. She built her own empire, and unlike Olivia, she didn't leech. She matched my ambition. We rose together, partners in every way. David, desperate and ruined, turned to Olivia one last time. He begged, pleaded, promised they could still win, but even she saw through the lies. When he asked her to destroy me, she finally realized she'd never been his partner, just his pawn. She left him there, alone in the ruin he created. My business thrived, my empire grew, and Olivia kept spiraling. One night, she walked into my office, desperate, broken. "I made a mistake, Ethan," she whispered, eyes filled with regret. "Can we try again?" I leaned forward, my voice calm. "You didn't just lose me, Olivia. You lost the man I used to be." She stared, stunned, as I stood, buttoned my jacket, and walked past her without a glance. Because Olivia was nothing more than a ghost from my past, and I was already walking into my future. At a charity gala I built from my legacy, I stood among world changers and powerful allies. Olivia and David had faded into irrelevance. Their names were stains, their lives reminders of what I had overcome. Isabella slipped her hand into mine. She whispered, "You've built something incredible, Ethan." I smiled, my eyes scanning the empire I'd created, not just of wealth, but of strength and self-respect. Not all losses are losses. I said, raising my glass. "Some are the best wins you'll ever have."